Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
So, make yourself comfortable where you are sitting now, as relaxed as you can. Take a slow, gentle, loving breath, feeling it in your entire body, and allowing yourself to relax even more into the space you are creating for yourself for this first day of teachings of the 12 layers of DNA. That is the grounding group of today's teachings and study and energy. Take another breath and create for yourself a beautiful, loving, energetic foundation so you can absorb, assimilate more, integrate more, understand more of what you are going to learn, what you are going to feel, of how much more you are, how multidimensional being you are, how much you can expand your awareness and your consciousness and your knowledge, your understandings of how your multidimensionality really is. Take another deep breath and allow yourself to go even deeper, moving closer into that space of timelessness, of beingness, of endless beauty and joy, of appreciation and gratitude, of compassion and love, of love beyond time and space, beyond any measure, that lives within you and with you and guides you from your soul, from your Merkaba. Breathe and allow yourself to be as fully as you possibly can be in this multidimensional experience of the heart, of the energy, and also through the mind. Breathe. And as you set now for yourself a beautiful space, open your heart even more to that space of no beginning and no end. As you are receiving the love, the guidance, and the teachings from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Rather than a channeling, indeed, it's a short message, perhaps even a blessing. But it must start this way. The information that you will receive today, the next class, and the next class, probably the most esoteric thing we have ever given you in an academic way. Organized, studyable, But more than that, all of the names hide other things, dear ones, as you will see. The Hebrew is used in respect. Respect for those who put together the idea that there is one God and spread that idea so completely that today this is how the planet sees. You wonder about old energy and old concepts and old ideas and perceptions. Think of a time, dear one, when there were many gods all through this planet. There was no agreement that perhaps there was a creator. Indeed, you have come so far in consciousness from those days. Project for a moment where you'll go in the future from there. Perhaps you will come to the realization that that one God, that one creator, resides somehow in every particle that exists. And that means you. Because you are just filled with not only just particles, but complex biology. You already know that this earth is made up of patterns and shapes and sizes and pieces and parts. And some of you are gleaning the fact that in all things, from a tree to dirt, there is a symmetry. And some are saying that symmetry is the Creator. The indigenous have always felt this way, saying that everywhere you look, you see the handiwork, not of just the Creator, but the Creator is in the handiwork. That the dirt of the earth contains the wisdom of the ancients. What if that also is projected onto your DNA? That DNA structure contains inside of it not only that which is you, but perhaps that which is divine. What if in that DNA there was more than chemistry? The chemistry indeed is what you study a little today and more. The chemistry is the framework that is needed for the rest. But in all of this framework, dear ones, over 3 billion chemical parts of that framework, in every single molecule of DNA in that framework, that's only a piece of the framework. For those who would study it, they would say where there may be more than 3 billion chemicals in one molecule of DNA, but less than 5% of them actually do something chemically. And that leads you to ask, what are the rest doing? It's not scientific evidence, but it leads the way to connect the dots. What if there was information upon information upon information? What if, because it carries that which is your soul imprint as well, that every single human being within their DNA has a record of everything that existed for them in every single lifetime, in every single planet? Indeed. Would you be interested? This is the esoteric study of the mastery within. This is a study that opens the door to allow you to see perhaps something bigger than you thought. Again, it's not scientific. It's esoteric, and we say that. But we invite you to feel the truth and the energies and the magnificence of what could be. That is what the esoterics are to you. And that is why we present them in this way. There's been a long distance of time for you since the introduction of this material to my partner and the publishing of the book from my partner to now. That is not an accident. For whereas it was an academic study in a book, now it becomes more alive for you. This is study 1 of 4. But you might say it's study 1 of 1,000,000, because the subject is vast and the information about what to discover will never end. Let the class begin. And so it is.
Well, welcome back from the break, everyone. We are now moving into the final section of our first day of teachings. And for this part, what I would like to do instead of a meditation is give you affirmations, speaking directly to each layer of DNA, and then we will move into the Kryon channel. So I invite you to close your eyes, and you may even wish to place a hand on your heart center. Dear Layer 1, my biological layer, the cells of my body hold the templates and blueprints of perfect health. I am filled with vitality, and I am youthing every day. Dear Layer 2, my life lessons, my entire entourage is with me now, guiding me through my life lessons. I am a champion of duality in my everyday life. Dear Layer 3, Ascension and Activation, I am filled with joy and give permission to connect even deeper with my inner child. My inner child is precious and active in my life. I bring joy to others. And I invite you to take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, slowly place your hands back onto your lap. And from this energetic posture, we invite the loving messages from Kryon.
You and with you in your body. Consciousness and DNA together are an engine of creation. And that creation for you, dear ones, is the creation.
The energy of the day, of the weekend, of all the beings that are around us as we do our work here. And we say yes to them and we give thanks. So take a breath into that. Into that place inside of us that connects with the outside, with the unseen ones, with the energies of the planet. In co-creation with the divine, with the love of Spirit for us, the work that we do, what we've taken on in this life, the honor of a human life, and the love that is given with us to continue on this journey. We hold the flame of these days in our hearts as we go forward, remembering what we've been given, using what we know of who we are as sacred, radiant, magnificent beings here on the planet at this time. And here we also receive the love and the guidance and the honor and the messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Every time the messages begin, there are a few moments of adjustment. The adjustment is for my partner, it is for you, it is for those listening. For truly, the messages are given almost in another dimension. For the human being, it's the dimension of belief. That you could really switch gears and in your mind stop listening to a human and instead listen to a multidimensional message from the other side. And what would I say to you today? Perhaps it's even a little different than before. I start with enamorment for the human. For you pulled it off. A colloquialism that means you really did it. Almost at the last moment, the timing brought you to the end of a cycle. And you did it without another war. You went through it without strife. And yet you really don't know what you've done. You find yourself in a brand new energy. Since 2012, many things are reacting and changing. Not just you. And that's what I want to talk about. Let's start with one of the basics. The crystalline grid of this planet. I have discussed, talked about, channeled. I have told you that it is a remembering grid. I told you that it is one that is active and activated by the emotions and the compassions of human beings. I told you it is a fast-track grid. That is to say, if it changes, then those humans who are placed upon it will feel that change. And up to now, it has had only that which has been negative. Really? Because that is what human nature responds to. If you don't believe me, watch your news. It seems to be what human beings are most attracted to and interested to. The horror, the negativity, the drama. And that is human nature. And that is changing. And so that grid would then respond to that which you respond to. And that's why it is what it is until now. What happens to the crystalline grid of this planet in the new energy? Well, I think I gave you a hint before. Dear ones, it's almost like it was rebooted. And the things which it remembered before, which were negative and dramatic, in the places it remembered them, will start to diminish and disappear. It's almost like the timing created an entire different physics for you, for the planet. It's a fast-track grid. That is to say that you are now imprinting it fresh. When you reboot something, all that was before goes away and it starts again. And dear ones, that is what's going on. Now I started simple. For the crystalline grid is an example, and it's fairly linear, and you can understand it. But then there are those who have asked the esoteric questions about time. Now, if you have not been part of the seminar, it's difficult for you to comprehend the discussion. Only because the seminar gave it, that is to say, it explained it. It gave it credibility, and the knowledge was displayed about the circle of time. Now, the circle of time is not anything that you really feel, because for you it is straight line. Past, present, future. But the reality is, it's fractalized. It goes in a circle. It really does. And in a certain way, you might say that as things happen, they create bumps on the road so that when you go in the circle again, you feel the bumps. Or you see them coming. Or you feel that something is going to happen, and that literally often creates the thing happening again. That's fractal time. It's been studied, displayed. There's physics behind it. So what happens to that? What happens to the fractals? What happens to the events on the timeline in the past that might trigger the future? I'm here to tell you something. The whole timeline, all of the fractals, everything is starting to be rebooted. And when they disappear, dear ones, time itself starts to change. And why? Because human consciousness is part of it. If you reboot fractal time, it means that the things in the past will not affect you today or tomorrow in the future like they did in an older energy where you kept tripping on them and they kept coming around and you had war after war after war because that was what was expected. And that was human nature. Now, if this is the case and the timing of things starts to be different, you are writing a new timeline. You're creating new bumps. But the bumps may actually be positive, not negative. Fractals are that way. They're going to react no matter what you do, except that the old ones and the old energy won't be here. You might say you've cleaned it. Controversial. It's controversial in physics. Time is time. No matter what happens, it would tend to be thought and perceived to always be the same. The process is the same, eons of the same, and suddenly I'm saying to you, it's being changed. The catalyst? Consciousness. So let's go one step further. If the fractals are changed, would that affect the reaction of humans about the past? The answer is, oh yes. Suddenly, this may very well be the beginning and the seed planting of peace among their former enemies. And where do you see that on the planet that is so profound? And the answer is the Middle East. Middle Eastern people and civilizations do not expect what I'm telling you. I was in a large theater, and my partner took me there, sitting alone on the stage in the lights with 1,000 Israelis. And they were there to hear a message from Kryon. Hopefully about their land or not, they don't know what Kryon's going to say. And I told them that they were chosen to bring peace on earth. That they were tasked to create peace on earth and that they were the only ones that could do it. And it would not come from the outside, it would not come from the West, only from them. And the reaction that I got, the consciousness that I could feel, because I know what's being thought, was how? When for eons, this is what we wanted. And since the 40, when permission to return to the land and create it was given, even since then, it just got worse. How? Are you going to turn a magic switch, Kryon, so that suddenly we can have peace in this land? And the answer was, no, they already did it. And they did it in December 21, 2012. And the reset has begun with the perception of the past, because the fractals are gone or being rewritten. And there's going to be children who are going to ask the question, tell me again, Dad, why it is I'm supposed to hate them? I'm not truly getting it. Tell me again, what happened in the past is supposed to do what to me now? Tell me, Dad, why can't we bring it forward into now? Tell me, Father, why we can't wipe away people who are now dead and gone and what they did and start now and look into their eyes and say, let's work it out. And it's going to happen on both sides. And there will be a lot less emphasis on who did what to whom and why and when. And instead, there'll be a consciousness of a clean grid and a start over. And an idea that maybe, just maybe, consciousnesses can come together without the past dictating who hates who. What a concept. This is the catalyst for peace in the Middle East. And it would never have happened if you had not passed this marker. There's more. The light and the dark balance of the planet starting to rearrange itself is going to create more wild cards. Wild cards in the form of human beings making change in ways and in places you don't expect. There's one way overdue in New York City at the United Nations. For it's an old organization with wonderful ideas about helping the planet, but stuck in its politics. What will happen there? If you don't see much, it may actually cease functioning. These are the things that I'm telling you that you don't expect. An organization out to create peace on earth may be dysfunctional and go away. Or a wild card may come and restructure it all under great controversy and almost no funding. That's what wild cards do. You may find it in business, in banking. New ideas never tried before, radical to the max. Expect these kinds of things. But they have to grow on you. So there may be some starts and stops. There may be seed planters who don't make it, and others who will come in after the seeds start growing. That means ideas that are not accepted yesterday that may actually then be accepted later, because as you evolve, you'll see the wisdom in them. This is all part of the growth process through time. This is where you are. You're at the beginning of the growth process. And all this with a new grid, with very, very few fractals to undo, with a clean slate, and a time that has, are you ready? No prophecy at all written about it. Zero. There are no elders anywhere or channelers anywhere at the moment giving you good, solid prophecy about what's next. Because you went through the tunnel of the old energy, the old prophecies. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go read them. Where are you supposed to be right now? And the answer is dead. Where is the earth supposed to be right now? And the answer is radioactive. No one lives here anymore. Goodbye to the planet. The whole idea of a post-apocalyptic earth is fantasy. You don't live here when there's that much radiation. It affects everything in the air and the oceans. The very dust that would have been kicked up by 1,000 nuclear explosions would be circling the planet right now and block the sun. Dark, life gone. That is the apocalypse that never took place. And instead you stand here with your kids and a new planet with hope. You wonder why I'm enamored with all of you. But you don't know it, really, not yet. In a generation or two, somebody will raise their hand and say, I couldn't help but notice. We're different. This is how long it takes, especially to rewrite the old consciousness of expected doom. 2 generations may have to go by before someone raises their hand and say, look, the sun's coming out. It's different. Humans sometimes are a bit stubborn. But now you have a new road to walk on. Some of the very essence of metaphysics is changing. Processes, procedures, how you meditate, how you pray, what it feels like, how long it takes. Expect these things to move, because now you're sitting in a fresh, new energy. I'll tell you this, it isn't fresh enough. Because as the earth refreshes itself, even through the weather changes, as I said last week, consciousness has yet to escape the expectation of doom. That's what's next. So you want to know what your task is at the moment, dear old soul, is to encourage those around you. When you hear them talk about the fact that they cannot get ahead, or that things are horrible on the planet, or what the news said last night, in a very loving, positive way, timed correctly, you can say, I'm really not on board with that. I feel we have a positive time ahead. Things are different. Can't you feel it? Can't you see it? I think we've got a bright future. We've got to be patient with it. And that is seed planting. And they may laugh in your face. But the planting of the seed that you have done has a compassionate overview that sticks in their consciousness. It's attractive. They may come back to you and say, why do you feel that way? I remember what you said. I just don't know why you feel that way. Then you can tell them a little more about the precession of the equinoxes, perhaps what the ancients said, a little bit more about the history of the planet that is seemingly unknown in the West. Ask them to do some research, get them going, plant the seeds. Young people will come to you sometimes confused at what their parents have told them about the future. You may be the only one that may say to a young person, it's a lot brighter than they know. They're still kind of in the shadow. I'm sitting in front of 1,000 Israelis on stage alone with my partner. And I told them, I said, in a black and white Israel, color is coming. And the whole idea was foreign to them because it never's been there. It's always been a black and white Israel. And then I told them, it's up to you. And now I'm telling you why these things have a propensity to change in a new energy. And the potential is ripe for that change. Now the timing of it is up to the humans. Did you hear that? Spirit is not in control of free choice. How long will it take is up to them, you, human consciousness, and if you believe this message today, everyone who's hearing it. Are you going to pick it apart, discuss it on YouTube, and comments of how stupid it is? And if you are, and you read that, that's a human being who has not escaped yet the whole idea of doom. And that is what is going to be rewritten first. What do you expect? Dear old soul, I want you to leave this place with those questions in your mind. What do you really expect? And if you expect the sun to come out and the energy to win here in the light, if you expect that which is unexpected in the Middle East, if you can see what the wild cards are doing and not be fearful and worried, if you're in that place, that's the first step to cognizing what really is going to happen here. A new planet, new consciousness, new ways starting to grow up. The end of war. The beginning of something you don't even expect is coming. Color is coming. That's the message. You are having things around you change to support you, and if you didn't figure it out, it's the grid, it's time, it's fractals, maybe even physics itself. As the field starts to come forward and synchronize and harmonize things even more. It's a wonderful message. Do you believe it? Free choice. But old soul, some of you are feeling it. Don't be confused, because your life is not necessarily cooperating with everything I've said. Because the timing of your awakening and change and recalibration is unique to you. Did you hear that? We don't have a group of old souls all taking one pill. Each one of you, so unique, so different, will awaken and evolve at different times for different reasons. Sometimes the synchronicity of what's coming will not allow it yet. And you're jumping up and down saying, how come I don't get it? You'll find out when the train arrives. Then you can get on it. But if you wake up too soon and go to the station, you're going to be frustrated the train isn't there. Let synchronicity work for you, not against you. Be patient with all things. What do you do while you're waiting? Why don't you sit there and say, thank you, God, for loving me? Why don't you accept God within? Why don't you think what is beautiful in your life that you can think about? What kind of positive change can you make while you're waiting? This starts to clean up the fears, the anxiety, and all the things that are not compassionate and beautiful. I have been accused of being the Pollyanna channel. I admit it. I am. Because I know what's coming. I've seen it before. Free choice. You can do with it what you wish. But I've seen it. I know where it's supposed to go. And you're well on your way. But dear ones, you just started. This is the beginning. That's enough for now. What are you going to do with all of this? Some cannot digest what I've said yet. But later you'll realize it, you'll see it, you'll understand it. And others of you get it right now. Again, you're all on different paths. Spirit knows who you are. Spirit knows your name. You're not in the dark. You're not without support. How does that make you feel? From the beginning of the channeling, 28 years ago, I gave you the metaphor, very beginning. I dare you. Climb in the closet, shut the door, turn off a light. Too bad. All the angels that came in with you are still with you. You can't get rid of us. That's the God in you, surrounded by that which you would call the magnificence of the other side of the veil, the higher self, the innate, that you carry around, pretending you're alone. But free choice may keep you alone if you want to be. I am Kryon, in love with humanity.
So, big day, right? And it just goes flying by, and here we are at the end of it. It's just amazing every time. So I invite you to take a breath and just let your body sort of relax, shoulders soften. Feel yourself, your body in the chair, feet on the floor. And allow your head to just soften and float up. Allow the energy above you to gently touch in the crown chakra. And just say hello, dear one. And from the top to the bottom, feel yourself in the presence of the limitless love of Spirit who holds you so dearly, of all of the hearts in the room, this beautiful family that you're among today, and not for the first time. And each time you're breathing in and breathing out, allow your heart to soften as your body softens, as your breath softens. And you feel the beginning of integration. And you feel the beginning of perhaps noticing your own limitlessness in a new way. In a way that can accept more love and more depth of being, more of the sweetness, more of the nectar of life and of the divine that is here for you right now, that is always here for you right now. And let yourself just expand into that and fill yourself. Bring it in right to the center of your being and feel what it's like to open yourself to that much love, limitless love.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I come in quickly because there is no preparation needed. The fact is that God is inside every single human being to the fullest degree that the human will allow it. If the human agrees that the door can always be open, this is the finest thing that we want to hear. Instead of compartmentalizing your meditations, your prayer time, or your channeling, it's always there, it's always available. And so it's not just a church experience, it's not a reporting on Sunday experience, it's a 24/7, it's a 24/7. And even as you sleep, there is a blessing of your dreams. And when you awake in the morning, you feel it and you know. There is no switch to be turned. by a human being that wants to honor God. The channeling this evening is what I told you it would be. It's a personal one. In review, we have been telling you for weeks, if not longer, of the things happening on the planet, of the energies. We've told you about the future. We've been telling you about the energies that are coming in the next 3 years. We have been discussing things which are multidimensional and some things which are confusing. We're talking about the human soul and the attributes to come and what it means and where you are in history and what year you are in the progression of evolution. And yet, when we would gather with a group of human beings and we would say, "And now what are your questions?" They would say, "What do I do next? How does it work with me now? As a person who has to live in my society and fit into a box, the way I earn my living, what I do around others, my children, my families, I'm not able to be a monk and just walk away. What is it I can do as an old soul for this planet?" And I'm going to address it. There are several attributes that I want to give you, and they are almost equal in the number. It's not about actions. It's about your consciousness and how you perceive all of this. The first thing I want you to do is to relax and know that you belong here. This is going to be belief, and we have talked about this before. You really want to know what to do? Every single one. I want you to relax and know you belong here. There are some who would equate your importance with your deeds. And you'd say, "Well, I haven't done this and I haven't done that, I haven't gone here." Some of you have said, "Well, this person has written many books, I've not done anything." I want you to relax. And I want you to know this, from me to you, dear ones, in all love, I want to tell you, your being here is enough. Do you know what this means to the planet? To have a human dynamo, a generator of light, living here. With the experience that you've had, old soul, where you've been there and you've done that and you've solved the problems and you've had thousands of lifetimes in both genders, and here you are walking around asking me what to do. You've done it. Your very existence is light for the planet. Now I'm going to give you some attributes to make that light shine in a time when we need it. Because this is your time. But don't you ever ask what you should do, because you've done it. I couldn't be stronger in the love that it takes to give you this. No matter what your age, young person, senior, it doesn't matter. The light is multidimensional. It'll carry over the gap of death. Some of you will plant things just by being here, which will remain on this planet forever, because consciousness stays. The things you do and say are remembered by humans, sometimes humans that are small. And you will change their lives just by what you say and how you act and what you do. Sometimes there will be a person riding along with you, watching how you react to somebody else on the freeway, perhaps, who is not as kind. And they'll never forget your reaction of compassion instead of anger. They may even mold themselves after you, and you'll never know it. You are influential because of who you are. You're experienced, and it shows. Experienced. What the experience often does is taint you, and you know it does. You expect more from people. Because you've been here so often and done so many things, and you hit a situation where there's uncaring or inefficiency, and you are then one who would say, it didn't work for me. You expected more. I know this, old soul. And these are the things you're going to begin to shift. So it's not about what to do next, it's about how to be. And so we're going to give you a little list here. It's a personal list. We always give you the things that you need to hear for the audience who is listening and is here. I know who you are. We always do. It drives the channels, if you didn't know that. You need to hear it. In the room are giants of old souls. Giants. How many of you remember the shamanic energy that you used to have? Some of you are beginning to pick it up again, and you feel it so profoundly, you're even dressing like it. Honored for it, all of it. You are beginning to awaken to God inside. And it has so many forms, for there are so many civilizations that you've been through. And there is no beginning of judgment about how you process this. Dear ones, God inside is unique. Unique for every single one of you. You've been here so many times and done so much. I already gave you number one. Relax and know that you're here on purpose. And being here is enough. Number two, I want you to start understanding and believing what we're telling you about these times. Because there are so many going into fear right now for what is happening on the planet. Now, this we have told you before, but this is personal because I know who's here. It's going to be frightening to some of you to see what is happening on the planet, for it hurts your heart. There's a tendency to check out, and what I mean by that is not death, but to simply turn your back and say, I've done my part, I'm done doing my part. It's getting a little hard. And I'll tell you what, this is why you came, warrior. This is why you're here. I don't want you to have to watch it on television. I don't want you to even have to know about it. I want you instead to not fear it. The fear will shut you down. For it is going to be chased away eventually by you. Holding light at home, at work, at play, and practicing compassionate action on this planet. Do not despair. That is primary. We told you that. Here is the third one. I'm going to call it acceptance of a quality that has not been here before. This is new to you. This energy is creating benevolence in all aspects of your life. Your consciousness and the change of it and your belief of it and your acceptance of it triggers things that have not been here before. There are energies now on the planet being flooded with light. There are actually entities and beings coming here by the tens of thousands that you have no description for. There is nothing that we've ever told you about it, that are flying here at light speed You might say, for your benefit, but it isn't. To change who you are, you've got help. You've got help. You walk outside and you step on the earth. The earth is different because you're an old soul. Your free choice has given you an advantage for the first time of awareness of a new energy that is occurring. And this legion of light beings is going to start helping you in all things. Now, I haven't really put it that way before, but that's the way of it. And that's the way it should feel. What do you think about the statement? Old soul, you have been pushing the mountain forever. It's been tough and hard, and every time you were born, it was hard. You were up against an old energy. And if you were brave enough to ever raise your hand and say what you felt about God inside, or even worse, have shamanic energy, it was not a pretty sight. Cast away, some of you. Exorcised, some of you. Isolated, some of you. Killed, some of you. And here's what I want to tell you. There is more acceptance today from the general civilization of your shamanic energy and your compassionate spirit than in any time in human history. They're waiting for you. They're waiting for you. And the help is here. Believe in the benevolent source that is going to help you to your next step. You've never had it before. Start pushing on the doors that you think have been closed forever about where you might go and what you might do or what others might think of you. And you're going to find new acceptance. Don't be surprised whether your light is seen differently than it ever was before. Here's another one. Now we get into action. Dear ones, do not isolate yourselves from the rest of the world. This is what you've been doing because you had to for survival. In order to believe what you believe, you collect in groups because you know the others are not going to be with you. Dear ones, when your neighbor sees you coming and they cross the street to avoid you, you know something is up. Huh? You've isolated yourself through your belief or your actions. And that's got to change. And it's not going to change by anything except that which is your personality becoming softer. Less critical, more loving, more benevolent. Some of this is difficult because it is not what you have been in the past. But I want to tell you, as soon as you start looking at things differently and you say to your cellular structure, your Merkaba, to the God inside, I am changing. I am more compassionate. I am more aware. I am that I am. It all lights up. It all lights up. And you walk around no longer in the dark because those who need to see your light will be attracted to you. And the entities that I've talked about and all of those who are flying to earth to help will then be attracted to this consciousness and you're going to be lifted and it's going to be easier. We told you a while back at Christmas time, do the hardest thing you can ever do. Go back and be with the relatives and be peaceful with it. Because some of them know what you represent. That you perhaps left the fold, or you left the religion, or you left the belief system. They sometimes see you as odd and strange. That is changeable with compassion. Because the action that you have, which is compassionate, is what they will see. Don't tell them about Kryon. Don't tell them about Pleiadians. Don't tell them anything. Show them love. Your compassion will do more for this planet than any other single thing. It's the light source. It is not your job, dear ones, to take a human being and convince them you're right. It is not your job to make them come to a meeting like this. It is not your job to do anything but to love humanity in a way that is so attractive they'll want to be next to you. And when they are someday, and they look at you and they ask, what have you got that I don't have? Then you can tell them, you got God inside. Without a doctrine, perhaps, without a building, perhaps, and to listen. This is the army of light that is going to win this world. And we've told you before, it's not what you think. Because the actual truth is that consciousness is over physics and is always able to change it. You just don't know it yet. And that your compassion will be seen as a driving force of this planet. If you're a healer, congratulations, we need you. If you're a reader or a healer, channeler, author, it was that which came about because it needed to be, and you came in with the tools for it. Congratulations. And if you're not, I want to tell you that compassion is the king. You're going to do more with your compassion than any channeler or healer. Don't isolate yourself. I want you to start practicing affirmations. It's time that you understood sound, consciousness, color, all of these things have energies. My partner has talked about the numerology, all of these things. Affirmations is your consciousness with your voice speaking to your reality and your cells, saying the things you want them to hear. And you do it in the first person, I am. I know who's here. Perhaps you should wake up in the morning and say, I am healed. I am getting a good night's sleep. I am pleased and celebrate this day. Could you say that every morning? I am pleased, meaning that you are happy with your existence. And you're celebrating the day. Affirmations, develop them, first person, positive. And start saying them to yourself, out loud. Kryon, do I really have to say them out loud? It's better if you do. Your ears will hear it. Your ears hear it, and it's a different reality. It's a 3D reality. It's what you're used to. Let your ears hear who you are. And in your cellular structure, there is data that has its antennas out, just ready to hear from the boss. Who are you? I am healed. I am benevolent. I am compassionate. I am happy in my existence. It is well with my soul. That's powerful. And everything you do along this line will collect light. You will start to change faster than you've ever changed before. Expect healing and change in your life that is faster than ever before. Let the proof of my words tonight be in how fast this occurs. And you'll know there's a benevolent energy that's attaching itself to you. It's so good. God is going to get bigger for you. Light worker. Army of the light. Last one. This is tough. It's out of your culture. It's out of your civilization. It's not in your tradition. I know who's here. I want you to try something for me. See how it feels. I want you to start honoring your ancestors. Now, I know who's here. And you're saying, I don't know who they are. It's a different world today than it was for the indigenous, where they lived in one spot and could track back their lineage for generations. I'm not talking about your grandfather. I want you to be abstract. Your ancestors are your spiritual family, and some of them are you in past lives. I want you to honor the process of ancestry. Reincarnation begets family, who then becomes reincarnated. Some of them are your ancestors. You don't know their names. You cannot picture them. You don't even have photos. But the concept is honor those who came before you, some of whom are you, and do it every day. The reason I mention this is because it's a return to the old traditions. It's honored by God. It is a way that your free choice is saying, I understand the system, it's beautiful, it's benevolent, and I honor it. It couldn't be clearer. And we haven't heard that from you in this society in hundreds of years. In the morning, someplace where you cannot be heard. Thank you, ancestors, for bringing me here now at this time. It's personal, and these are the points that I wanted to tell you today. It's not about the energy of the future. It's not about grandiose things. It's about you today. Don't leave don't leave the same. Leave different than you came. Think about these things. Be aware of these things. If you work with this, dear old soul, you will have results. I promise. If you have pure intent to make it work, you're going to see results. It's time to stop the worry and the drama. Stay away from what I will call voluntarily negative attributes. This is negativity that you voluntarily participate in, and you may not even be aware of it. Does what is on your television offend your heart? Then turn it off. If you need to know what's happening in the world, get a magazine. Use the internet. You can go at your own pace and see what you need to see, not what others think you need to see. If you're in a room and they wish to gossip, don't participate. Leave if you can. Be compassionate instead of criticizing. Do not participate in the negativity. It'll shut it down, dear ones. Watch it happen. When you don't participate in the circle that is moving and spinning, it stops. These are the things that every day you can do as a light worker. There's more. So many things that I could give you on a day-by-day basis that I know that you can literally walk away from if you wish. Drama. When you walk into a drama, walk out. If you see it developing, stop it by compassionate action. Do not defend yourself. It doesn't help. Be compassionate. If someone calls you names, that's their problem, not yours. Be compassionate with their having a bad day. Dear ones, there are ways where you can change who you are, and they will notice. They won't say it, but they'll see you as a little more mature than they are. And then don't be surprised if they decide to emulate it, because it's really attractive. Love is attractive. Light is attractive. Benevolence and beauty is attractive more than ever before. And the old soul knows more than anyone on the planet how to make it work. This is the message for you this evening, this day. Again, leave differently than you came. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There's so many times I've said this. I know who you are. It's a stretch for so many of you to believe that. One of the first questions the human asks when I come in is, who are you? As though there had to be some kind of singular entity with a name. It's caused because there is a singular person talking. But that's not the energy that is dispersed at this moment. The voice that you hear comes from my partner with his intellect, with his intelligence, his culture, his consciousness. And we've talked about a third language, and the third language then activates the entourage that's multidimensional in the room around you. The entourage does not come in with me. I've said that before. It comes in with you. Pieces and parts of that which is the divinity of the soul, which has been discussed even this day, are in the room because you're here. The human being is so much more powerful than you think. If you feel joyful, if you feel euphoric, if you feel you're learning, you're aware then of pieces and parts of you which are now being activated and active around you. And you're not alone, for that then interfaces with the others who are feeling the same thing, and that develops into an entourage. When I come in, I am speaking, and the entourage that is you then speaks to you. And it's not limited to the ones in the chairs. This is the beauty of a multi-dimensional galaxy, universe. It's the beauty of the physics that you don't even understand yet. The ones listening to this who are not here are here. They're listening in another time frame. To us, there is no other time frame. It's all happening at once. It's now. That cannot be explained to you. But they're part of your entourage, even though they're listening later. They're related right now to that which you are feeling. And that is a beautiful system. For so many decades, for centuries, spiritual leaders have felt these things around them. The love of God is this way. And sometimes it's so confusing and yet so beautiful that you can sit there with your arms open and you know you're loved. There are some who have related this to the earth so greatly that they will only do it perhaps in the beach or the mountains. And when they do that, they feel all of nature is with them. The divas in the forest, hear them singing, know that the sky is attuned to them. And none of that really is the way it is. It's simply that God is everywhere and everything, and so are you. I want you to leave this place with an idea. You've got a secret. You're connected with everything. and that everything actually might have an attitude, a consciousness at some level that knows you're there. You might walk into a place that is completely and totally vacant of any other human, and the elements know you're there. You can't hear the singing that goes on, that appreciates the light where you walk. And you can be alone in the forest, or on the path, or simply walking along the grass. And the Merkabah that you have, that spiritual bubble that you carry that is divine, is so related to the Creator that even the insects know who you are. Things change because you're there. And if you hadn't seen this in history, you'd think perhaps I was making it up. But you have so many writings of the masters of the planet changing the elements where they walked. They were not that much more divine than you are. They might have had a different purpose at the time. Perhaps their DNA was working at a higher level. But the message they had was one of example. You can be just like me. That was their message. All through history, right up to the present, there are masters on this planet who can still do these things. And they're examples of consciousness over physics. But more than that, that you are so related to everything around you that you're one with everything. It's how you treat this and how you work with it that really shows, Spirit, your belief. We have touched on so many things. I want you to leave this place not thinking that there is a grand puzzle that you've got to figure out. Here is the answer to almost everything you might ask. On the other side of the veil, there is not darkness or misunderstanding. Because you cannot penetrate this veil completely, you believe that on the other side there's mystery. And I want to tell you, on the other side, there is love, benevolence, and a full knowing of who you are. A piece of your soul is there. What I'm trying to tell you is that no matter what you're trying to solve, no matter what you're trying to do, or even understand, even if there's been too much for you to grasp this day, on the other side of the veil, there is complete and total understanding of who you are and what you're trying to do. If you reach out, you may not understand what you're getting or the hand that you're holding, but Spirit does. The part of you that is bigger than you even called your higher self, knows you better than you do. Because on the other side of the veil, there's a full sense of multidimensional reality, of all that is, and it's hidden from you. What I'm trying to tell you is that part of you knows you. On the other side of the veil, it is allied with the Creator. You got a friend there. There's no mystery there. I want you to relax with this. So many human beings trying to reach out to God, and they think God is this enormous, enormous level of intelligence. And it's not personal, but it is. And the personal part is the fact that you are part of this enormous intelligence. You're an integral part. That's the message. It really is. How can you put this into a practical manner, a practical way? Dear ones, you only have certain ways of linear communication. You can only do certain kinds of things that are meaningful to you. We could speak all day about the many parts of you and the soul on the other side of the veil. The very veil itself is mysterious. Where is it? How is it? And so we say to you there's one thing that is a commonality that sails across the veil. And that one thing has some parts to it. The one thing, of course, is love. Compassion is part of that, and if you put the complement of what goes with compassion, it's joy. And if you look at joy, there has to be laughter. And so one of the best things you can do to break through the veil, to break the ice of what is what and how it works, is to sit down and be joyful. To take a deep breath and smile and know you are loved and that there's a hand up there in metaphors, in your brain. See it, perhaps, as part of you reaching down to shake hands with you. And as you do this, you're smiling. You're not in need. You're not pleading. You're not suffering. The God help me in fear is a bubble you're not going to get out of. Do you realize this? You make the veil thicker when you fear what's going on. But if you have the wisdom within all that's happening in your life to sit down and smile and feel the joy and the comfort that God knows who you are and Spirit knows that there is no accident that you're even sitting there. And then you realize there's a system. I'm in it. I'm part of it. It's me. I don't understand it. But everything on the other side of the veil is benevolent and knows what's going on. And as you put your hand through that veil metaphorically, you can laugh out loud. Laugh out loud. Enjoy that there are answers and solutions, something bigger than you can imagine, and the veil suddenly gets so thin because you have the compassion of understanding and the joy and the wisdom to laugh. Greatest spiritual leaders on this planet, greatest ones, are known to laugh a lot. Think back. No matter what they suffered eventually, the teaching was joyful. And so the message then gets even more complex. For now we ask you for wisdom. Wisdom to drop an old consciousness that asks for help. You can say to Spirit, "Dear Spirit, tell me what it is I need to know," and laugh the whole time, knowing you don't know anything. But you're going to receive that which you need. Good enough, isn't it? What if Spirit only doles out what you need as you need it? Is it good enough for you? Or is there a linear thing that says I have to have a storehouse before I'm happy? The definition of abundance is that your needs are taken care of every moment that you need it. That you don't need to know what's happening tomorrow, or that there's going to be something there for you tomorrow. There will be. We said it before, the metaphor, the epitome, the history of this is the Israelites in the desert fed every morning for 40 years. And it's an interesting metaphor, is it not? That the generations that came, even though they were fed every morning, at some time during the day, there was fear of whether they would be fed the next morning. It's so human, is it not? I'm going to ask you to drop that. How much love do you have to have before you realize it's always there? How many answers and synchronicities do you have to have before you realize that's the system? It's time for humanity, especially old souls and light workers, to stop fearing the future. To understand that this system is forever. Long after you're gone and returned, the system will be in place and you'll be using it. The older you become, akashically, the better you're going to understand it. Let me tell you something. The energy is in place right now, and we've said it before, that when you return in this next lifetime, no matter what age you are, dear ones, this is going to happen. When you return the next lifetime, and you will, you're all coming back, all of you. You wouldn't miss this. You've spent too many years and lifetimes waiting for this. You're going to line up to return. And when you return, you will not have to relearn what you had to learn this lifetime. Because the Akashic awakening is going to be so complete. You won't know who you were or what you did, but you'll have the wisdom not to make the same mistakes. It's beautiful. And part of that wisdom is to know how the system works and to work it in a synchronistic way better than you've ever worked at this time, and be joyful when you do it. Your next life is going to be better than this one. Period. Because the wisdom on the planet that you have helped create, you're going to wallow in and enjoy, and it's about time you had a vacation. It's about time. It's going to feel that way because things are going to be easier. Right now, this is difficult because you carry around with you the bias of history. In an old energy, that's all you've experienced. It's all you know. You judge everything by that. And when you come back, you won't. You'll judge everything by the new energy that you recognize, that you're comfortable with, and you see as opportunity to change the planet. You can hardly wait. You come out of the womb ready to go. Your parents will look into your eyes and they'll go, "Holy moly, who's this?" That's how different you'll be. That's how different you'll be. The very countenance of infants is going to start changing. Born into a new energy, an old soul is not going to have the attributes of an old style infant. Everything starts to morph and change and be part of a new energy on the planet. Everything. I tell you this so that you will know not only in this lifetime do you have things to look forward to, but from now on. The system is big. You're eternal. And you'll continue what you started now. It's hard for humans to think past the one lifetime. Indeed, that is the plan, and that should be. But I can tell you, I've been with you before. Kryon is the name of the group that comes before you right now that helps to facilitate the information of this new shift. And before you had this new shift, there were other messages given at other times. I was there. You give angelic names to this very process. An angel speaks to you. It has a name. A group speaks to you. You don't like that. It's got to have a name. The further back you go in history, when Spirit speaks to you, now it has to have a name, a body, skin, and wings, a halo. It has to look like you, act like you, and just in order for you to understand it at all. That's changing. And some of you will understand that Spirit is really part of you, speaking to you. It's a friend. It's not apart from you. It's not God in the sky. It's you in the sky. Part of the creative source, part of a plan, part of a system. A graduate earth is coming. Things happen slowly for you. There are some seniors in the audience who can look back. The attendees that are here look back in their lives as though it were yesterday. As though it were yesterday, and a lifetime races by to them. And they look at their chronological age and they can't believe it. So many things have happened, and only yesterday they remembered this and that and this and that. This is just an inkling of what it's like on the other side, for we see all of humanity this way. Yesterday you arrived. Today you're graduating. It's beautiful. You're timeless. You don't get older, you get better. This is how we see you, because we are part of you. We are part of you. We're not separated from you. I speak to you as Kryon, as part of a soul group that's you. I've never been a human. It doesn't matter. Because part of your soul is of the Creator, and so am I. I'm part of you, you are part of me. Doesn't it feel this way? Doesn't it feel more comfortable? There are so many right now starting to understand that the messages are profoundly beautiful and comforting, because the system is here and working. I want you to go from this place changed, standing a little taller in who you are and why you're here, knowing there are solutions, perhaps that you don't know are coming, and they are coming. As long as you laugh, as long as you're joyful, as long as you chase fear out of your life and say to the fear that's there, you don't belong here. Get out of my life. Not anymore. Human, you're coming out of an older energy, and this is a tough time. The next time around, you won't remember an older energy. You'll only remember the new energy you're in. It's going to change everything. Children are being born right now with that attribute. One of the issues of children that is so misunderstood is that they do not have old energy attributes of remembrance. All they know is what is possible, not what is not possible. And because of that, they look like they're troublemakers, because they don't fit into the old energy that you've experienced. It's a time of shift. Part of the shift is this: it won't last forever. There'll come a time when the generations will all be new. And when that time comes, things will be different. The earth will be different. What you do will be different. And you'll be here as one of them. It's beautiful. Spirit knows who you are. The hand of benevolence on the other side of the veil knows who you are. Ready for you to laugh with them. Have joy with them. Don't worry about it. There's too much intellectualizing. How do I do it? What will happen? How many parts are there? If I do this, will this happen? It's really quite funny how linear you're making the beauty and the love of God. Relax. Smile. Be joyful. Don't figure it out. And so it is.
Hi everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service.
What you see here as you listen, as you watch, some of you, is admittedly beyond that which you would expect in the reality that you live in when you're not in this room. The very fact that you have come here collectively to watch this, to feel the energy, says that it is not necessarily something that you see all the time. Or perhaps you expect something different. Perhaps you're hanging on the words to find something special. The channelings that are at the end of these days with this kind of workshop are different. Because we talk about who's in the room. Sometimes the room is those who are listening later for you, now for me. It's more of a personal channel than that which is information which we would list as we have done before. And so we go right to the point. What happens when you leave? When the channel is over, if you're listening to this later, and you get up out of your chair and you go wherever it is that you go, what happens? Right now in this room, there is an entourage, and we've talked about it before. We invite you to discern that there is one. We invite you to discern that this channeling is not my partner talking. We invite you to discern the love of God, Spirit, whatever you wish to say. This is the energy that has taught with the masters of this planet over and over. Through major cultures and minor ones, through the ancients and the indigenous, to the energy of Gaia and more. This is what is taught in this time. But what happens when you leave? The linearity of your minds and that which you call real life causes a diminishing in energy when you're not in a group. The entourage is here and it's precious, and we invite you to feel the energy of this entourage. Group, there are those here today in front of me, collectively, that create a certain consciousness, an attribute of what happens when Merkabahs intertwine. You're all sitting in each other's energy, and it creates a larger energy. And then you go home. Some of you will go home with the others you came from. Many will go home alone. There may be family at home, but you really go home alone. And when you get there, what do? How real is this later? No matter what we do right now, no matter what we discuss and what we talk about, I've said this before for years. This is the part where you sit and I sit, and there's a love exchange together, where some of you can actually feel the creative source and know you're okay. Some are healed in these meetings. Because collectively, because there is this attribute of togetherness, it creates an energy that allows healing. Do you really have to come to a meeting to get this? I want to say something. I want to say welcome to the new earth, where any one of you can go home and create the entourage. Any one of you. I want to tell you, I double dare you. My partner's words. to become the master that you are. The masters who walked the planet did not walk in a group. They walked alone. And what they carried was everything alone. And if you wanted to know what was going on in many of their minds as human beings, there was doubt. There was shock and surprise sometimes at what happened around them and the reactions to them. But they were self-sufficient in their love. They knew who they were. And that alone created an entourage. They walked from place to place. And the people who saw them walk there said, "This is different." Perhaps you heard the reports that even the animals knew it was different. And this is where you're going. There is an eventuality, a potential. The snowball is rolling. That every single old soul, every human being who awakens to their own greater power will start to change chemically. The DNA will start to enhance itself physically. There will be more awareness inside. And you're going to last longer. You're going to have revelations by yourself of who you are. And the biggest issues will be things like self-responsibility, awareness of situations you're in that you shouldn't necessarily be in, not in order to let yourself grow. Some of you know very well what I'm talking about. And growth also creates some uncomfortable times. But the masters had them as well. What are you going to do when you go home? Let me ask you a question. Is this meeting a crutch for you? Do you have to come to a meeting like this in order to feel the euphoria of the love of God? Or can you walk out of this place standing tall and say, I can create this in a closet? Now here's the next question. You're with others and they're not of like mind. Can you create it then? Can you walk this euphoric way with Spirit inside you, giving you right what you might feel now, and be with others who don't agree and are giving you a bad time? What's going to happen when you leave here? Today, there were questions, there were an attempt at answers, and almost uniformly, all over the planet, the questions to channelers, to teachers, to Spirit itself are all the same. And the questions have to do with what, where, how, when, and why. It's almost like every single one of you needs to understand the mechanics of everything esoteric in order to take the next step. And that's human nature. And I'm going to say this. I'll say it again. Why do you do that? Is it really, really necessary? Dear ones, I give you the example yet again. You have a machine called the human body. It's a chemical machine. It gets you from A to B, birth to death. And it operates by itself. without you thinking much about it. It's designed that way. And you work this machine during your life, and as you grow up, you learn about it. Some of you are able to control it by the health that you put into it, by the food and all of the other things that you put into it. And that's about it. That's about it. Your consciousness, as you've discovered, can alter it, can make it last longer. But it operates by itself. Do you really have to be a physician and study every piece and part to walk from A to B? And the answer is no. You get into the automobile, and it gets you from A to B. And you never ever think to yourself, I must understand the workings of the internal combustion engine in order to get to A to B. Ever, you never. Because it simply works. Now I'm going to say this yet again. The awakening process of the human being that is spiritual and filled with purpose in this age has automatic mechanics that work within you. As you're aware of shift and change, Spirit is working with you. How many of you are aware of what happens when you awaken at 3 in the morning? And there are many of you who do. And do you wake up and wring your hands and go, what do you want? Or do you have the balance to raise your hand and say, thank you, Spirit, for keeping me awake? Because I recognize I'm being worked on. There's things that need repair and help. There are things that need to be enhancing. I don't have to know what they are. Thank you. You see, it's a system that is designed to work in an old soul by itself. If you open the door, light is coming in, and you don't have to analyze the waveform of it. You don't have to measure the door. You don't have to know why. You really don't. Instead, dear human being, I want you to feel it. It's either appropriate or it's not. That's what free choice is about. Is it fearful? Does it feel good or not? Discernment is not about the minutia of how it works, how long it's going to take, and where it's going. The old soul is beginning to awaken to a bigger purpose and idea. That these things come along when they should, and the more calm you are about all of them, the better they're going to work. But they're going to be stopped if you start to analyze what, why, where, who, and when. It's just going to be stopped. Because those answers, dear ones, are not available in a linear way. You all have fallen in love. All of you. Whether it's with another human being, whether it's with a master, whether it's with an animal. And it's palatable. It's beautiful. It changes your chemistry. You look at each other, human beings, in your eyes, and you're in love. And I've said this before. Do you then stop and analyze it? Do you say, well, what's happening? I can't fall in love unless I know the minutia of it. You don't. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. You enjoy it. You fall into each other's arms and you enjoy it. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. God is in love with you. And there's nothing like it. I don't want to invite you to fall into the arms of that which is already inside you, called the higher self, which has the creative energy of the love of God, you fall in love. And stop asking why, or when, or how. There are answers, basic answers about the shift of the planet, where you're going, what really truly is happening. It's about an ascended human race. Human by human, case by case, thinking differently on a pathway that is of a higher vibration. The result, longer life, peace on earth. We've said it before. But dear ones, this is a metaphysical, esoteric principle. You're getting from A to B. It's way too complex for you to put it in a box. Especially the box of 3D. And there are those who will leave here. And when they walk out the door, everything that was here stays here. Because you just didn't get it. That everything that is taught here is you. It's not from the one on the stage. It's available inside you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I invite you to retire into a room that's yours only. And I want you to think upon these things. You might even raise your arm and say, Dear Spirit, if you're there, show me. And you're going to get chills. You'll feel even your eyes are closed, that perhaps a light is bright and shining on the top of your head. And the higher self is going to wink at you and say, it's about time you ask. And you can carry that light everywhere you go. By yourself. Alone. If you are fortunate enough to have a partner or family members or associate that feels the same as you do, now you're a group. It carries even more power, for where there are two or more, it's exponential. But dear ones, it starts with you. Do you dare ask the question, Dear Spirit, what is it I need to know? And you won't get a voice. You won't get handwriting on the wall. You'll get guidance, intuition, and love. This is the new human being. The one who accepts something that is complex, that affects their lives, their emotion, everything, and they don't understand it. But they don't have to. Because the design is that this, dear one, is going to get you from A to B without you knowing why. Can you do that? Discern it with your emotional heart. If you need to analyze it from a point of correctness of feeling. Don't analyze it from what you've been taught it should be, or what normally happens, or what you think happens. There's not one of you who really knows what happens, not even the one in the chair. Everything we have given you is extremely simple, because that's where you are right now. You're in a simple place with simple concepts, working a simple puzzle that is enormously complex. Just like the engine of your car. It's going to get you there if you let it. Do not fear the love of the creative source in your life. Maybe it's time you heard that. When you leave this place and you go home, what's going to happen? The ones listening to this, when you get up out of the chair and go in the other room and you're done listening to the channel of Kryon,
Are you going to take this with you, or are you going to shut it off? My partner calls it throwing the switch. You live a life, you go to a building and you worship, you dress for it, you come home, you live your life. A and B. And it's time that stopped. I want you to leave this place differently than you came. The entourage is making a lot of noise right now. You can't really hear it with your ears, but you can feel it with your heart. You are known by God, by name. It's time you left and knew that. Climb into the closet and be known by God, by name, with a light shining on your head. That's the message for today. It'll be the message as long as I'm here. And so it is. Of magnetic service. There are so many lessons that human beings could learn that are so beautiful and benevolent and awakening. And they are unique to each of you. Those here in the room, those listening later. They must be learned in a way that is appropriate for each and every life. There is no one grand lesson that everyone has to gather around and learn together. Instead, what happens is groups participate in energies that they start to recognize. And it's not the facts of what you learn, and it's not the list that you might write down. What you sense that puts you together into a cohesive unit is the attributes of love. And you feel safe and you recognize it. And that is the communication between light workers. Not that which you would call a belief system. I would like to say, stop calling it a system. Is love a system? And the answer is no. Is compassion a system? And the answer is no. Then your relationship to the Creator is not a system. It just is. But others will recognize the same energy that you do. Not in a system, but in that compassionate energy that surrounds all of you. It makes you a better person because you are compassionate and loving to yourself, than to others. It changes all of the attributes of your expectations, but it's got to start at home. It has to start that place that you call you. And you've heard it over and over, forgiveness of self. It's not really forgiveness. It's an awareness of who you are and what you may not have to forgive. It's an awareness, again, of being born magnificent, and no matter who you thought you were, that is who you were as a child. That's what the child thought until they grew up and understood everything about compassion and love. The God that created you is you. I'll say it again. Made in His image is a phrase that so many have used in the past to describe the divinity in a human being. And the image is not the image of a prophet or the image of the face of God. It's the image of compassion. It is love. Made in His image means you are a piece of the Creator. The image of the Creator is inside you. That's magnificent. That's the engine
that you start to use to create whatever it is you need right now. Solution to the problem you came with today? The engine is there. Solution to the health issues you have? The engine is there. We told you the last time we met, how are you going to instruct the engine to then drive forward and eliminate these things that you don't necessarily need to have, that are inappropriate to your life at this time, dear light worker? Do you feel that your life is limited? Do you feel that perhaps it's going to be over soon? I will tell you that all of that thinking was placed upon you in an older energy, in a three-dimensional place, and somehow, some way, you have believed it to this minute, not understanding that made in His image means that you have control over the length of time you stay, and that nothing that is going on right now in your life is forever, that it can be moved aside today, tomorrow. You don't know what you don't know. And what you don't know is how powerful you are. The power is for you to change you. You're on the water, dear ones. This is the time. I'm going to give you some things you didn't really think about. There were a few astronauts a couple of decades ago that completely went out of the Earth's field of gravitation, and there were only a few. And these are the ones that flew to the moon. It doesn't matter whether they landed there or not. They were out of touch with anything that would ground them to the planet for a couple of weeks. And they never, ever got grounded. They never went to a port. And the fact that they were completely and totally outside of the Earth's magnetic field was significant. They were ungrounded, totally and completely. Now I want you to study a little bit of what happened to those men. One of them became an artist, another a poet, another spiritually minded to the max. That's all he wanted to talk about. Others didn't talk about what happened to them because they were very private. But they were so private they didn't even want to talk about the trip, because each single one of them had an epiphany that they never expected. These are scientists and pilots and astronauts that were chosen from the finest ones, the logical ones, and they all were affected. For a few days, you get to be ungrounded. And I'll tell you that the energy in this place is ripe for change, discovery, decisions, solutions. I'll say it again. Change, discovery, and solutions. Take advantage of it or not. That is free choice. I speak to the small group here. And those listening in the future, know this, that when you take these journeys where you're over and on the water for lengths of time, that these create wonderful creative times. And we've said it before. Those who want to write books, take a cruise. Those who want to write poetry, take a cruise. Those who want to have solutions in their life that they cannot seem to grasp, take a cruise. It's almost an invitation for you to think differently. Accomplish things you might not have otherwise. And then when you return to the grounding, it all starts to make sense. and you look backwards to only perhaps a week or two before and say, I never thought of that. I feel different now. And it wasn't because it was a vacation, dear ones, any more than the astronauts took a vacation. It was something else. You with you, some of the greatest tools you could have. And so it is.